Nabanggit po ni Senator Laila De Lima na ang leader mismo ng Davao Death Squad ay mismo yung dating mayor din, Mayor Rodrigo Duterte. Did I hear it right, Mr. Chair?
Yes, those are the claims of those witnesses that we talked to. That is also the claim of Edgar Matobato and Arturo Las Cañas.
At Mr. Chair, siya po yung merong alias na Superman bilang leader ng Davao Death Squad.
That is correct.
Mr. Chair, given na meron ngang mga rewards dun sa mga napapatay na mga suspects or involved di umano sa drug trade, Mr. Chair, ano ang source nitong binayad dun sa mga kasama yung mga informants, yung mga civilian na mga force multipliers, pati sa mga assassins?
Nabanggit ko po yan sa statement ko kanina o sa presentation ko kanina na meron nang gagaling from the Office of the Mayor itself, the intel funds from the Office of the Mayor. The DDS logistics and finances came from the Peace and Order or Intel Fund of MRRD. That's according to the CHR witnesses and also from Las Cañas ICC affidavit.
Mr. Chair, may we get once again yung breakdown, ano-ano po yung mga pwedeng pinagpuntahan nitong intelligence funds? Halimbawa, as mentioned, meron pong pati mga Christmas gifts dun sa mga police na aktibong nagpatupad ng ganitong tipo ng giyera kontra droga.
Yes, yung nasa isang slide kanina, yung according to the CHR witness, kung ilan yung amount, kung magkano yung amount for the 1988 to 2000 period. Kasi sinabi ko kanina na actually two periods yung DDS, 1998 to 2000, then 2001 to 2016. Nagkaroon ng break nung naging congressman yung dating mayor. Now, so 15,000, 5,000 to the handler, 10,000 to the assassins, and then yung sa 13,000 to 15,000, 3,000 to 5,000 for the handler, 7,000 to 8,000 for the assassins, and 500 to 1,000 for civilian informant abanteros. They call them abanteros. Yung kay Mr. Las Cañas naman, ang sinabi niya sa kanyang affidavit, DDS members were paid anywhere from 10,000 to 20,000 for every victim. Yun yung sa mga ordinary victims. At yun meron naman tinatawag na special project killings, mas mataas. They were rewarded anywhere from 100,000 to 1 million pesos depending on the status of the target. Yun po ang mga natandaan ko nung binasa ko yung affidavit ni Mr. Las Cañas at doon din po nung binasa ko at review ko yung aking personal investigation notes from the CHR investigation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, merong nabanggit din na merong weekly gas allowance. Bahagi po ba iyon ng bayad sa mga police na nagpatupad ng Davao level war on drugs? Merong weekly gas allowance, may
Yes.
bukod pang cash allowance, tsaka
Yes.
Christmas gifts.
According to Mr. Las Cañas, this includes weekly gas allowance, monthly cash allowance, and Christmas cash gifts.
Mr. Chair, ano po ang pagtingin ng ating resource person, Senator Laila De Lima? Kasi kung ang nabanggit ni Colonel Garma ay pinatupad ang Davao model from ang scope lang ay sa Davao City at ginawa itong isang nationwide na drug campaign. At ang source ng funding para dun sa rewards, Mr. Chair, ay ang intelligence fund sa Davao City. Posible po ba na ang ginamit din dun naman sa nationwide na war on drugs ay ang intelligence funds, pero this time ay yung intelligence funds ng Office of the President?
Mr. Chair, Your Honors, the possibility is always there, but I have no knowledge about that. I don't know that. Wala pa po akong nakita na mga dokumento na nasa akin na yun talaga ang source nung drug war na from 2016 up to 2022. But it's quite possible kasi meron talagang reward system. We can only surmise at this point in the absence of direct evidence na meron talagang magsasabi kung saan talaga yun ang galing. Maybe sila Colonel Garma, sina Colonel Leonardo, baka alam nila because they were part of that. Si Colonel Garma, yung inutusan according to her na maghanap ng pwedeng mag-implement ng drug war based on the Davao model. And this is, yung sinabi ko kanina, this was the Davao model. May kasamang mga reward, may kasamang mga cash incentives, may bracketing din. Depende kung sino involved, kung sino papatayin. And so that's the reward, that's the incentives. So, posible rin na gumamit uli ng Intel Fund, this time from the Office of the President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I proceed sa iba kong tanong, dahil Mr. Chair, kung doon pa lang sa unang taon ng pagpapatupad ng war on drugs sa ilalim ni former President Rodrigo Duterte, doon sa Committee on Human Rights, kuha nating figure at mismo ay yun pa yung sinight na accomplishment sa report ng Presidential Communications Office ay umabot sa nasa ilang tens of thousands. Kung ang iti-take nating figure, Mr. Chair, ay 20,000, kasama doon yung mismo ay confirmed na police yung pumatay, tapos maging yung mga vigilante killings, Mr. Chair, na ang pumatay ay pwedeng hindi kilalang mga tao, pero bahagi yun ng tinuturing na tagumpay, di umano, ng war on drugs. Kinompute kasi natin, Mr. Chair, kung 20,000, doon pa lang sa time frame na yon, 20,000 na yung mga napatay. Tapos, kung yung minimum na reward ay 50,000, assuming pa lang na mga small time or yung mga peddlers, yung mga pinatay, Mr. Chair, at least aabot ko, imomultiply natin, Mr. Chair, 20,000 times 50,000, kakailanganin ang nasa 1 billion pesos pa lang dun sa mga reward sa pagpatay, Mr. Chair. Hindi pa kasama dito yung mga allowances, yung mga kung merong mga weekly gas allowance pa rin, weekly cash allowance at iba pa. Sa rewards pa lang, Mr. Chair, sa ganong time frame, 1 billion pesos na ang kailangan. Pero Mr. Chair, kung ikukumpara kasi natin sa intelligence funds pa lang ng PNP, and let's take yung first year ng Duterte administration, ang intelligence funds ng PNP noong 2017 ay nasa 468 million pesos lamang, Mr. Chair. Walang kalahating bilyong piso ang intelligence funds ng PNP. So kung ganun, Mr. Chair, saan pwede talagang kumuha nung ganun kalaking pera bilang pangbayad, bilang premyo doon sa mga pulis na nakapatay? Kaya Mr. Chair, kung magpo-process of elimination tayo, dahil PNP lang naman yung pwedeng ahensya, sana na pagkunan ng ganun. Pero then again, kahit yung intelligence funds ng PNP hindi sapat. So wala nang ibang agency, Mr. Chair, na merong mas malaki pang intelligence funds na pwedeng pagkunan, walang iba kundi yung mismong Office of the President. Lalo na kung itutugma din natin yan dun sa mga testimonya na merong mga taga-presidential management staff na bahagi rin nung channel, nung reward system na ito mula sa presidente patungo sa mga kasunod na mga level ng mga police officers, maging si Senator Bongo, si PNP Chief Bato de la Rosa, at iba pang mga dating opisyal under the Duterte administration. Kaya with that, Mr. Chair, tingin natin meron ding sapat na batayan para atin na ring silipin paano ginamit ng Duterte administration ang kanyang intelligence funds. Darating din sa punto, Mr. Chair, na dapat ay mag-issue na rin tayo ng subpoena ducis tecum sa mga dokumento na sinubmit ng Office of the President to COA, to the Commission on Audit, para talaga mabusisin natin kung ano yung naging justifications for the use of intelligence funds by the Office of the President under Rodrigo Duterte. So, kasunod, Mr. Chair, kasunod na tanong kay Senator Laila de Lima. Nabanggit po kasi ang tungkol sa quarry mass grave. At kung isipin ko pa lang, kahindik-hindik ito, Mr. Chair. Kaya pasintabi na lang po sa ating mga kababayan na baka sa ganitong oras ay kumakain habang nanonood sa Quadcom hearing. Mr. Chair, meron po bang binigay na description yung kung sino mang witness patukol sa paano ba na-facilitate ang ganitong mga mass grave? Paano gumagana yung, paano hinandle ang ganitong mga mass grave?
Mr. Chair, Your Honors, kasama po kasi sa organizational structure ng DDS, ay yung pinakita po kanina, na there is this SPO4 Bienvenido Laud as team handler and in charge of the Laud Quarry Mass Grave. Nandyan din po yung si SPO3 Jim Tan as team handler and in charge of the Mandug Mass Grave. Doon pa lang ho, nung nag-iimbesti kami sa 2009, may mga nakapagsabi na po sa amin na meron ganyan na mga mass graves kung saan tinatapon yung mga naging biktima ng DDS. Now, sinubukan ho namin na puntahan yung sa Laud Quarry. Kaya lang, nung pagdating po namin doon, mukhang hindi ho namin naabot yung exact location kasi the Laud property is a hilly part, medyo ano po yun, parang hill, and then akala namin hanggang doon lang at a certain point, nakakita kami ng ilan-ilan, konti lang, na human remains, skull, pero we learned later na hindi naman pala doon yung mga talagang mass grave of that property. It was in a higher portion of the Laud property, na nandun nga daw po yung karamihan ng mga tinatapon nila na mga pinatay. So there are actually several mass graves from various sources, yung Laud, and then yung Mandug mass grave, and then meron din ho sa Samal Island. Yun po ang mga impormasyon na nakuha namin. So, we actually applied for search warrant. But then, nag-quinash ho ng isang RTC of Manila or Quezon City, I'm not sure anymore. Later, na reverse yung quashal of the search warrant ng Court of Appeals. And then eventually, the Supreme Court in 2014 affirmed the validity of the search warrant or affirmed the decision of the Court of Appeals. Kaya lang, wala na hong naging follow-up implementation of the warrant of arrest, either by CHR or by PNP, because I think because by 2014, insofar as CHR is concerned, its investigation closed already when it submitted or issued its resolution of June 2012. So hindi na po na-follow up yung ano sana ng mga mass graves na yan.
Mr. Chair, may nabanggit na tatlong location ng mga mass grave. Doon sa course ng investigation ni Senator Laila bilang dating chairperson ng Commission on Human Rights, meron po bang credible estimate kung ilan itong mga mass grave na ito na siyang facilitate ng Davao Death Squad bilang bahagi ng war on drugs?
It was difficult to really determine with to come up with a credible figure. Ang natatandaan ko po, yung si Edgar Matobato, meron din po siyang sinabi tungkol dyan. I'm not sure if he actually mentioned any number with respect dun sa mga alam niya na mga linibing nila. In fact, in some of those, participant talaga siya sa paglilibing, kasama yung mga iba pang miyembro ng DDS. So I have to check from Mr. Matobato's affidavit, and also his testimony before the Senate, kung meron siya talagang nabanggit na estimate of the number. But again, I think it would be difficult really na makuha natin kung ilan talaga yung mga linibing doon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pero Mr. Chair, at least, so far alam natin, merong at least 3 na mga mass grave. Tama po ba?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kasi Mr. Chair, isipin pa lang natin, kahit nga isang mass grave pa lang ay sobrang heinous na ng kung sino man yung mga gagawa ng isang ganong bagay. Tapos doon lang basta-basta magtatambak ng mga bangkay ng mga tao na merong mga pamilya, 'di ba? Merong mga pinanggagalingan din, merong mga gusto sanang gawin sa buhay pero napatay na lang ng gano'n na lamang. Mr. Chair, meron po ba kahit isa lang doon sa mga bangkay mula sa mga mass grave na na-retrieve pa para maibalik sa kanilang mga pamilya?
Wala po ako matandaan.
At Mr. Chair, meron din bang mga pamilya na lumapit sa CHR dahil ang suspecha po nila ay dahil hindi na nila mahanap yung kanilang mga pamilya, sila po ay nag-isip na baka nasa mass grave na yung bangkay ng kanilang mga kamag-anak. May ganun po bang mga instances?
Wala po akong ma-recall if there are really families ng mga victims sa DDS killings na lumapit sa CHR para hanapin yung kanilang mga bangkay. Ang alam ko, because it's more recent, is that may mga families of victims who visited me when I was in jail at Camp Crame at the PNP Custodial Center, and there were quite a number of them who relayed to me yung mga naging experience nila, yung tungkol sa pagpatay under the war on drugs. But as to the mass graves, again, I will have to review my personal notes. Comprehensive po yung aking personal notes, and I'll have to check that out. Mr. Chair, Your Honors.
Mr. Chair, noong ginawa ng nationwide model, yung model ng war on drugs galing sa Davao, na pinamunuan nung then Mayor Rodrigo Duterte. Mr. Chair, dahil I would assume na hindi na ganun kadaling mag-set up ng mga mass graves, lalo na kung ginawa halimbawa yung Oplan Tokhang sa mga urban centers. So, in that case, ay based dun sa initial investigations nung si Senator Leila de Lima ay nag-lead na po ng isang komite sa Senado, ano na po yung kadalasang paraan para ma-dispose yung bangkay ng mga naging biktima, no? Kahit ng mga innocenteng biktima ng war on drugs?
Siyempre yung mga sa salvaging. Pero alam niyo po, about the Senate inquiry. I was the chairperson of the Senate Committee on Justice and Human Rights, but I was able to preside or conduct only an inquiry for 3 hearings. Kasi po, after the 3rd hearing, kung saan prinisenta ko po si Edgar Matobato, ay inalis na po ako bilang chairperson of that committee by the majority of my colleagues then. So iba na po yung nagpatuloy. Because in that Senate inquiry, gusto ko sana talagang tukuyin na yung mga killings na yan, starting in 2016, are really state-sponsored or state-inspired. Kaya lang, as I would remember, may naka-ready actually na about 13 CHR witnesses from the CHR na pinovide sa Senate Committee on Justice and Human Rights. Pero 2 pa lang po yung naipresent ko and also si Mr. Edgar Matubato, but I was already ousted as a CHR chairperson. Now, after the third hearing, what I recall is that 3 more hearings were done under a new chairperson. Pero, it was abruptly terminated kasi they did not even call the other available CHR witnesses na ready sanang i-present before I was ousted as CHR chairperson. They did not even present them. So, ang nangyari, they issued the findings, the resolution, and one of the core finding is that there's no evidence that the killings at that time were actually state-sponsored. Something that I wanted to prove sana kung hinayaan lang po ako. Although, of course, I could understand that perhaps it was such a tough job, a tough challenge for me to prove it. Especially that nandyan pa yung dating Pangulo sa poder, na nahihirapan pa na talagang kumuha ng mga iba pa, ng mga witnesses, especially from within. Hindi katulad po ngayon na naglalabasan na po sila. May mga insiders na po na sinasabi na kung ano yung mga nalalaman nila, but not during that time. Pero I wanted to do it. After sana the presentation of those CHR witnesses, these are individual accounts of individual cases of summary execution during operations, yung mga sinasabi nilang nanlaban, pero hindi naman pala nanlaban. I was also looking at the medical certificates, the various medical certificates that we got. Marami po yun. At ang dami talagang mga kaduda-duda doon. And of course, we summoned then PNP Chief Bato de la Rosa and other officials of the PNP, but they were all denying that these are the workings of PNP forces or that these are cases of EJKs and let alone state-sponsored killings. So yun po. So nothing came out. It was
Kindly-
almost a whitewash.
Kindly
Yes.
wrap up, please.
Yes, huling topic, Mr. Chair, since na-present din ang relation ng ating local law dun sa ICC or yung International Criminal Court. Since some camps would say na hindi dapat tayo maging open sa quote-unquote intervention, no? Ganun yung tinatawag sa mga hakbang na ginagawa ng International Criminal Court since dapat daw ay ipatupad natin yung ating sariling batas. Huwag daw tayong pumayag na panghimasukan tayo. No? Ganun yung pagtingin sa ginagawa ng ICC. But since Senator Laila mentioned yung Section 17 ng RA 9851, tama po ba yung aking interpretation, Mr. Chair, na pinapatupad pa rin naman natin yung ating local law, which is yung RA 9851, if the Philippine government cooperates with the International Criminal Court? Dahil sa committee nga po natin, Mr. Chair, sa Committee on Human Rights and Committee on Justice, we approved a resolution. We are urging, as part of the legislative, we are urging the executive na mag-cooperate sa ICC when it comes to this war on drugs. So, ibig sabihin, Mr. Chair, we are not surrendering our sovereignty. We are actually implementing the intent of our domestic laws kapag mag-cooperate ang Philippine government sa ICC. Tama po ba yung aking pagtingin, Mr. Chair?
Tama po yan, Mr. Chair and Your Honors. Dahil nga nandyan ang batas. In fact, nauna pa yan, 2009, before the Senate ratified the Rome Statute. But yung Rome Statute po was signed as early as 2000. I was just reminded by Attorney Conte earlier that it was actually signed by the former President Erap Estrada. Kaya lang, the ratification took some time. So it was only in 2011. But before that, pinasa nga itong RA 9851. And sa pagbabasa ko nga po ng mga provisions ng 9851, it is as if those who pushed for that are actually anticipating that there would be an international body that would be coming in or would be involved in the in the investigation of crimes that would fall under any of those crimes cognizable by ICC, including crimes against humanity. Kaya nila siguro pinasok yung Section 17 na yan. Malinaw sa akin na kahit may investigasyon tayo dito, pwede pa tayong makipag-cooperate. And there's nothing in the Rome Statute which says, except the complementarity principle, na ang hinihintay kasi ng ICC ay yung genuine investigation focusing on those with the highest or the greatest responsibility. If I may just quote from the ICC pre-trial chambers decision in January 26, 2023, decision authorizing the resumption of the investigation. Ang naging conclusion nila, kaya they ordered for the resumption of the proceedings of the ICC investigation at dinismiss nila yung appeal ng Philippine government. And I quote, "The domestic proceedings in the Philippines do not sufficiently mirror the expected scope of the court's investigation, since they only address the physical low-ranking perpetrators and at present do not extend to any high-ranking officials." Further, the ICC pretrial chamber said, "The chamber finds that the PH has failed to demonstrate that the Philippines has failed to demonstrate that it has conducted relevant investigations and prosecution with respect to 4 issues." This was in 2023, as I said, ito yung decision nila authorizing the resumption. Number 1, the alleged killings in Davao from 2011 to 2016, which is within the duration of the ICC investigation. Pwede lang kasi mag-imbestiga yung ICC from yung sa 2011 up to 2019 when the withdrawal became effective. Number 2, crimes other than murder committed in connection with the war on drugs. 3, the killings outside official police operations, meaning yung mga riding in tandem, yung mga hindi natin sigurado kung mga police ba yan or are these agents of police officers, yung mga assassins. And number 4, and this is very important, the responsibility of individuals beyond the physical perpetrators of the alleged crimes. So ang hinihintay nila, yung mga tunay na investigasyon targeting or involving yung mga nasa taas, beginning with the former president, who is clearly the mastermind, as he induced the killings. And that is becoming clearer and clearer as nakikita natin dito sa mga lumalabas sa Quadcom hearing. Then that is the complementarity principle. Since hindi pa nila nakikita may tunay na investigasyon, and when they say investigation or proceedings, they are clearly referring to criminal proceedings. So ito pong magiging resulta ng Quadcom. Fine, I think we can be hopeful and optimistic na may mga lalabas. Pero later po, o may lalabas na resolusyon na can also categorically identify yung mga nasa taas based on the evidence na makakalap o kinakalap na ngayon ng Quad Committee. But later, kung hanggang doon lang po at hanggang doon lang yung mga gagawin din ng Kongreso, because ang mandato ng Kongreso is, in aid of legislation to enact laws, it could only recommend to the other relevant agencies and offices kung ano pa mga dapat gawin, including the investigation. Kung wala talaga yung investigasyon na yan, hindi po natin pwedeng pigilan ang ICC. Because yun na yung sinabi nila. Kasi hindi pa naman talaga tina-target, puro lang sa low level. Tsaka yung ICC is not actually focusing on the low level. It's not possible for them to look into each and every case of killings under war on drug. Kaya doon sila nakatuon sa mga those with the greatest responsibility. So,
Okay, so to wrap up, Mr. Chair.
This is your last question, Congressman
Yes.
Manuel. Thank
Yes,
you.
so Just a closing manifestation, Mr. Chair, na batay dun sa mga narinig natin, habang yung mga nasa tuktok kasi dati na ngayon ay dapat sanang sumagot sa mga tanong natin, ay naghahanap ng iba't ibang paraan para makaiwas o parang nakikipag-patintero tayo sa kanila, Mr. Chair. Kaya sa totoo lang, dapat ay ma-exhaust natin yung iba't ibang mga paraan para talaga maisulong yung hustisya para dun sa mga naging biktima ng extrajudicial killings. At bahagi niyan, Mr. Chair, habang meron tayong mga ganitong investigasyon, actually, yung pagsulong din ng investigasyon ng ICC, it complements our efforts dito sa bansa natin. And also, Mr. Chair, yung fact din na dahil nga mula sa Davao ay in-apply on a nationwide scale kung ano yung kanilang approach dun sa Davao at intelligence funds yung ginamit nila doon. We also observe a pattern, Mr. Chair, na from just 250 million pesos na level ng intelligence funds for the Office of the President, lumobo pa ito to 1.25 billion pesos. Kaya, Mr. Chair, malaki yung posibilidad talaga na ito din ay isa sa pinagmulan ng pera para mapagana yung peke at madugong war on drugs. Kaya dapat din ay mabusisi natin paano yan ginamit ng Duterte administration. Yun lang, Mr. Chair.
Thank
Maraming
you,
salamat.
Chair.
Thank you, Congressman.